Path of Exile 2, and I have returned with hours and hours. All right, so yes, I was flown out to LA to go hands-on with Path of Exile 2, and I have returned with hours and hours of brand new gameplay and all new details from game director Jonathan Rogers. That's what we're going to be taking a look at in this video. We're talking about the extensive in-game system, going over pretty much all of it, the Ascendancy class system, what it's like at max level and beyond, a tease at some of the in-game gear that we can acquire, a super detailed look at basically every system in the game, early access details, and yes, you can get access to this game starting at $30, which is absolutely insane to me. More on the new game plus type system related to replaying the campaign. You guys have got to also see how the actual map system works in the in-game. It's pretty cool. And also how this game is going to be starting out massive, but will also be doubling in size from early access until official launch. We're taking a look at some cool boss battles, classes, so much stuff. But by the way, I am doing a Path of Exile 2 giveaway. So for a chance to win,
so for anyone just tuning in, we're just at the very start of the video.
In the pinned top comment, check it out. But we're going to go ahead and see what Jonathan Rogers has to say. This is a very big presentation. By the way, a very special thank you goes out to Grinding Gear Games.
Hey, Scott.
For their professionalism and providing me with all of this footage, the full-blown presentation for you guys. And remember, I have returned with my own recorded gameplay, so look out for that in the very near future. So yeah, here we go. This is super impressive. Enjoy.
Now what we're going to do here is we're going to go through the character classes that you're going to be playing in early access. And while we're doing that, we're going to explain the different ways that you have to develop your character. Now, as I said before, I like to keep things pretty casual. This isn't some kind of hyper-polished presentation. And Octavian, who's playing, is going to be using cheats and so on. So, you know, he might have to die and revive, but hopefully it goes okay. So we're going to start off with the monk. So the monk is a fast melee fighter. He cares a lot about momentum in combat. Now, he does a lot of damage, but he isn't necessarily that strong physically in terms of defenses. So you're going to want to stay back and you know, go into and out of combat very quickly. Now, like all classes, the monk was going to want to mix and match a few different combos. And one of the things we really like to do with our skills is make sure that we've got a lot of things that can take advantage of different situations.
This is the video they posted up.
Octavian is freezing monsters with
it's on their channel.
Frost, and then he's using Glacial Cascade to kill them if he even hits the thing. If the end of the Glacial Cascade hits the monster and it's frozen, then it will do a AoE damage and do a lot of damage. Now, the monk also has a lot of combo skills. An example, so if you hit monsters using regular attacks, then you'll charge those skills up. An example of this is Tempest Bell. So here we're going to create a bell, and then if you hit the bell, it'll do damage around it. You can also add status ailments to the bell. So, for example, you could freeze it like he was doing there, which will add cold damage, but you could also set it on fire or shock it and this kind of thing. So that's sort of just like a really quick rundown of the kind of skills you can expect on the monk. But how do you get skills in the first place? Well, the answer to that is skill gems. So the way that you get skill gems are items that you can find in the world, and if you right-click on one, you can choose what skill you want to get. Now, we're trying to keep the skill system feeling as much as possible simple for new players. There's two things you can do here. You can either level up an existing skill or you can pick a new one, and that kind of interface is quite familiar. We have added things like tutorial videos for every skill.
Frozen locusts will explode when attacked by you or your enemies.
That's pretty cool.
But effectively, we just want to make sure we're keeping this simple as possible. Now, what you do once you've got a skill gem is put it into your skill screen, and once you've done that, you can bind it and use it. This particular skill is called Frozen Locust that creates a little ice ball there, and then you can detonate that with your Glacial Cascade if you want, since it counts as a frozen object. Or the monsters can attack it and explode it that way, or you could use it in front of a boss who's about to slam and explode it that way.
There we go.
So that's a sort of basic rundown on how you get skills, but it's worth mentioning that you can also use skills across other classes as well. So what we saw there was just the skills for this one class. If we open up the screen again, you can see that the skills for the other classes are still available. If you have the stats to use them, you can use them just as well. And then there's lots of different interesting combinations you can use across classes too. So that's just a quick rundown on what you can expect for the monk. Now we're going to move on to the sorceress. So the sorceress is our primary elemental spellcaster. She's going to attack mostly from range. She has high damage but low survivability. The area we're entering here is in Act 3 called the Forge. This is an area like an ancient Vaal forge where they were making forging various gold things.
Oh, really?
So she's using a combination of lightning and fire here. Once again, there's lots of interesting combos that we want to do.
It'll
But
be
one of
that
the things that I
flavour of the
really like
month
to kind of
for a
show
number
you
of
to get a
non-PoE
taste for
creators.
one of the other character development areas we have in PoE2 is support gems. So support gems are, in PoE2, you get them by finding an uncut support. And when you open this by default, what
I
you're going
think
to
it's
see
footage
is
that
just a few
they
recommendations. If you
provided
go through
open
the
world
different skills
gamers.
you have
Look,
on the
it's
left,
fine. Like
there's different recommended skill gems for
I think
each,
that's okay.
for each skill that you
Everybody's
have.
welcome to do whatever
So
they
what we're
want.
trying to do is just make sure that for new players, it's very easy for them to pick something that's just going to work. In this case, what we might do for Spark is pick Pierce. The reason why that's good is because Spark is a skill that creates
Thanks
a lot of
for the sub,
projectiles
George.
that run around the ground and then bounce off walls. If we're able to pierce through monsters, it means that they can bounce off a wall and potentially hit a monster again. So that can make it a lot more powerful when you are filling up areas with things like that. We're going to try and relight up the forge here in order to be able to get to the boss. So that's what Octavian's doing here.
That's pretty cool.
So one of the other things that
This
we
has
might
got to be
want
that
to
forge boss that you can see in the trailer.
pick is multiple projectiles for one of our skills. So, for example, we've got Fireball. If you fire it without multiple projectiles, you get a single fireball that explodes. Throw multiple projectiles on there, and obviously it does what you might expect. You get multiple fireballs. So one of the things that's important is that you can actually move these skill gems, support gems around between skills. For example, if we took the multiple projectiles and instead we put it on, I don't know, this ice. I think you've got an ice skill somewhere, frostbolt. Then you'd be able to make that into multiple projectiles instead. So effectively, this is the way another area of character progression that you can use in order to improve your characters in PoE. So you want to, I think there was another one as well actually. Yeah, Firewall. Let's try Firewall. So Firewall is a skill that allows you to create a wall of fire. If you fire projectiles through that, it's going to add fire to the lightning projectiles that we fire through. So that is quite a nice little combo there as well. But if we want, there's another skill, a support gem I think is quite interesting called Fortress.
Cheers,
if you
man.
throw that on any skill that creates a wall, was that the one? Yep. Then when you cast it, it's going to make a circle, which you can either put around you or around the monster.
That looks pretty
So that
cool.
means you can cast that and then fire in all directions afterwards. So it can add a little bit of power. It might be a little bit easier in this area as well. We've got tight quarters. All right. Now the next thing we're going to show is the warrior. So the warrior is our kind of big tanky melee class.
Hell yeah.
Unlike the monk, he's a lot slower, but he hits a lot harder.
Slow and steady wins the race.
He's just going to change to WASD, which works a bit better on this class. Right, so here's the warrior. Now at the moment he's using a two-hand weapon, so he's going to be hitting very slow, but very hard.
Like, I'm definitely
But there's also
playing this
something
class.
else you can do as well in PoE2, which we didn't have in PoE1, which is that if you switch to a shield and a one-hand item, then you've also got active block. So this is something that actually comes in handy. It's not so useful for just regular trash monsters unless they've got some special ability, but it can be quite nice against bosses. So let's have a quick look at that. So this is a big boss here, and the thing with bosses, they have large telegraphed attacks.
I saw that, yeah, we're going to do a video
if you use
about that
active
later.
block here, you can use that to avoid all damage from the front, which is quite nice. Now there are attacks that have a little red flash that you can't block, but for the most part you can.
I need more time.
Yeah, warrior is just the way to go. Like, look at that, totems are just dope. I like that, like, ground slam with your foot. You see that there? That's a global stat. And that is the old, like, oh, I can't remember what that is. Basically empowers your slams in Path of Exile 1. It's at that length there.
I need more time.
No worries, mate. I don't know, I reckon depends on the skill that you play, to be honest.
Now,
with
one of the key areas that we haven't talked about yet
They
in
do,
Path of
they
Exile in
look
terms of
brutal.
character customization is, of course, the
Fantastic.
passive tree. So Path of Exile is really well known for having a giant passive tree. There's 1,500 nodes in the passive tree, and all the classes use the same tree. However, they start in different locations. So the warrior, for example, starts on the bottom left side here, and because of the fact he starts there, he gets access to a lot more of the melee-focused elements on the tree. Now, to quickly explain how the passive tree works, there are a few different types of nodes here. The smallest nodes are just like minor nodes, and they'll give very simple increases, like, for example, you've just got melee damage here and that kind of thing. But the thing you're probably going to want to go for are called notables. Notables are the very slightly larger nodes, and they have much more interesting effects.
It'll be close to when the
they're
launch
often
of the
going to
game
depend a
comes
little bit
out.
on what kind of build you're doing. For example, this one here is 20% more damage.
So
against
it'll
heavy
probably
stun
be like
enemies with
6
maces.
months away or so
This is something
until
you're
we get the
obviously
last
only going to care
Ascendancy.
about if you're heavy stunning enemies a lot, and of course using maces.
Heavy
So
stun's going to be awesome.
these notables are the things that are really going to define your character, and the list of notables is really when it comes to making build guides and things. Is this is what really matters.
Hey, Michael, how's
And
it
in
going,
PoE2 have really tried to push the fact that notables are a lot more interesting, so there's a lot more stuff going on with them.
Yeah.
But as well as notables, there's also other big nodes on the
looks
tree called
not
keystones.
too dissimilar
And
to
keystones are
Path of
unique
Exile
because they have
1.
both upsides and downsides. So an example of one right here is called Giant's Blood. It says you can wield two-hand axes, maces, and swords in
Definitely
one
gonna
hand,
be playing that.
but you get double attribute requirements of weapons. So effectively, if you want to use a giant two-hand sword, but you still want to use a shield, you've got a way to do that. You just have to meet the attribute requirements to do it, which could be tricky for in-game bases. There's also other keystones, a few examples from other classes. There's one here that is, from PoE1.
So I'd be
Maximum
doing
life
CI
becomes
on
one,
the
but you're immune to
Infernalist.
chaos damage. Since chaos damage does double damage to energy
I'd
shield,
assume,
this
like,
is something
Aegis
that you might want
Aurora
to
is
use.
still in the game as
Once
well.
you've got that, you don't have to worry about chaos damage anymore. You just need to build for energy shield and not life. Or another example of one that's been modified from PoE1 is Mind Over Matter. All damage is taken from mana before life, but you have 50% less mana recovery rate.
So we
If
know
you're gonna
mana
build for
stacking
this,
is
it means
probably
you don't
going
have
to be a
worry about
thing,
life
but
once
not
again,
until a
but,
Hierophant
you will
class
have to
comes
build a
back.
huge amount of mana pool in order to sustain that. So these are the kind of things that you can pick from keystones that, as I said, have upsides and downsides and interesting trade-offs. Now, there is one other mechanic as well that I want to quickly talk about. So if you go back to the character and just have a look, Octavian was manually switching between, if you go back to the character and see, so Octavian was manually switching between one-hand and two-handed weapon sets. He was just pushing X to do that. When he's using both sets, there are things on the passive tree that you might want to be able to use for one or the other. So another unique feature for PoE2 on the passive tree is the ability to split passives in two in order to allocate one for one set and another set for the other. So if we allocate ones in red here, these passives will only be used when you've got a two-hand weapon. And if you allocate passives in green using the other one here, these passives will only be allocated when you're holding the other weapon set, when he's using his one-hand weapon. So effectively, if he presses the weapon swap button now, it'll switch from one set to the other.
That's pretty cool.
So that means that he can effectively dynamically adjust his passives.
I've already got a
based
plan
on,
to do
what
that in
weapons
my
he wants
first
to
build
use.
too, using shields.
But the other
and
thing as
shield
well is,
wall.
in order to make it a lot easier for you to be able to use different passives in your different passives and different weapons for different skills, we also have the ability to pick for a given skill
Titan
which
also get
weapon set you want to
20%
use it with.
increased
So for
life,
example, the Stampede
and
skill
also,
here, if you've got a shield,
double armor as
then
well
when you
is
use the
built into the
skill, it will
Ascendancy.
be blocking the entire
So it's
time.
pretty
If I just
OP.
demonstrate that quickly. So if you use a Stampede, because you hold your shield in front of you, you're blocking
Yeah,
the entire
exactly.
time you're charging. And using the one-hand weapon will also be a lot faster because it's got higher attack speed. So that's something we'd much rather use with our one-hand weapon. But when, for example, we're doing our Earthquake or our Double Slam, this is something that we probably only want to use with our two-hand weapon because we want to do the most damage. So that means we can turn it off with the other weapon set. And now when you use your two-hand, when you use that, it'll switch to your two-hand weapon automatically. So effectively, this allows you to have multiple weapon sets and do a lot of different things. It's also very good for, for example, on the Sorceress earlier, she was using lightning and fire. She can have two different staffs, one that's geared for one that's geared for the other, as well as spec a passive tree out as well. So that's another character development feature that we have in PoE2. Next up, we want to talk about the Ranger.
Yeah, exactly, but everything just looks so good in this
So the
game.
Ranger
It's
is our
ridiculous.
primary bow cast, bow user, and she's all about range and mobility. So one of the first things we did when we were developing
not
the Ranger
convinced
is
by
we wanted to make
Ranger,
sure that
eh?
everything you do can be done while moving. So this just makes the game
I
feel
don't know,
a
it
lot
doesn't
more
have that
fluid.
new
So
feel.
she's just a lot more mobile even from that. But she also has a lot of vaulting skills that allow her to jump up. For example, there's one there that freezes monsters. She jumps up and she can jump over monsters and freeze them. So this kind of thing allows you to, as I said, feel a lot more mobile.
No, the
in combat.
duelist is still
Make sure you
coming
can get away
back,
from the
so they
monsters that she
haven't
needs to
released the
since,
duelist yet. So
she
yeah,
isn't
but yeah,
necessarily
it'll be the
most
same
tanky
starting
character.
area.
Now, one of the things you might have noticed if you're a PoE1 player is the bottom
It's
left of
a
the screen
video.
there.
It's,
There's only 2 flasks, just a life and a mana
from
flask.
open
We've actually
world
changed how the
games.
flask system works in PoE2 very recently. Now you get 1 life and 1 mana flask, and that's all. And the reason we actually did that is we found that there was a problem in PoE1 called flask piano, where everyone was just sitting there pressing 1, 2, 3, 5
And
constantly.
we had to basically
flasking.
instilling all
The thing
the
is, so
flasks.
we've actually buffed flasks
I
significantly.
think
so
that's
that
the
each
biggest
flask has a
issue.
lot more charges,
It's not
but
anything new.
you only get 1 of each type. Now, one of the main things that people were doing in PoE1 when they were using flasks is they were using the other flask slots for mostly things that were making them resistant to various element types and so on. And so we wanted to have a system to allow that to still be the case and still have interesting character customization there. So we've added a new type of item called charms. Charms charge up using flask charges, so as you kill monsters, but they automatically trigger in order to grant you immunity to certain things at the point when you get those things. So for example here, this is used when you become ignited and then grants immunity to ignite. So if you're having trouble with fire damage,
exactly.
then you
Just
can throw
feels
that on there.
lackluster.
If you get
Doesn't
ignited,
feel
it
like
will
anything
automatically
special like the other
quench you.
classes.
And then it will charge up again from killing monsters.
And I reckon like
now, there are
the
lots of
Gemling
different charms
Legionnaire
that
would
have
be a better
different,
archer class, to be honest with you.
different abilities. They trigger on different things. They get you. They make you resistant to different things. They can also get mods, from
I reckon
crafting
it'll get
and so on, so
exciting
you
down
can,
the track
make
when we
them an
see what
interesting part
builds
of your
can come
build.
out of it.
But the point is, they're always automatic. You don't have to manually
know,
trigger
right?
them. So it kind of solves
It's
that problem
wild.
of having
Like
to
6
manually
years
use
waiting for
flasks
this game, and
constantly.
we can finally play it
You
in
get
2
the
weeks.
ability to use more charms by getting higher level belts. This is relatively lower level, so you've only got 1 charm slot there. As you get higher level belts, you get more slots up to 3, and there might even be some uniques that lead to more charms later on as well, of course. Now, one of the other things that we wanted to upgrade as well is that we found, so in PoE2 there's a huge amount of encounters and bosses. There are actually 50 bosses in early access. There's going to be 100 in the final game. It's
pretty crazy.
So one of the things we've changed is we've upgraded the map to actually allow you to see all of those on the map. So if you zoom in a little bit there, you can see that there's a bunch of bosses and random encounters around the area. Near to where Octavian is right now, you can see that there's a boss called Silver Blackfist. And that means that in this area there's something to find, a boss to encounter. So as I said, the bosses often
you could be right with that.
things that you can use to increase your character power as well. So it's important to kill them.
It's not going to be ZDPS. It's going to be the tankiest thing in the world. Like this, I'm going to be tanking it with a shield, alright? You're going to see me do it on stream. I'm just going to tank it. All day long, tanking everything. But yes, I'll be making a ZDPS shield build. I'm going to call it an earth-bending shield build. Like the fights just look crazy good. I love it.
This thing is strong.
I can't get enough of this game right now. It's crazy.
Forgive me, great creature.
It's pretty cool.
So as
that
you can see,
Exalt's
he dropped a
there
book of
too.
specialization there. And this is one of the items that allows you to do the split passive points in the passive tree, but it also gives you more passive points as well. So it's something that you're going to definitely want to find. Now, there are other bosses around the game that have different bonuses and so on, so
It's
it's
not gonna
definitely
be
good to explore all the
ZDPS.
encounters throughout the game and find all of those things. So next we're going to talk about the Witch. And while we're showing the Witch, it's also a good time to talk about one of the other character progression systems in
look,
Path of
I
Exile
reckon
2,
there'll be
which is
good
Spirit.
builds with WASD
So the Witch is a
and
primary
good builds
summoner,
with
but she also has a range of other supporting
whatever.
skills. But the thing we want to show
I
you
reckon
first
skills
is just
like
the fact
slam
that,
skills and things like
she,
that will be more
often,
so
and in
click.
fact, all the classes use a resource called Spirit. So there's a new type of skill gem,
Definitely
an uncut
totem
Spirit
builds will
gem,
be
which
click.
you can use here, and that'll give you a bunch of these, another skill screen with a bunch more abilities. What these ones are is for giving you things that are kind of somewhere halfway between a passive bonus and an active one.
That's interesting.
This one here called Grim Feast feeds on corpses to bolster your energy shield, but we've got lots of these for all classes. All classes can use them. For example, on Sorceress, here you've got Outer Armor. There's one here called Raging Spirits, which means that every time you use a fire skill, it summons a Raging Spirit. So you can, like as I said, it's somewhere between like an active and a passive. But for the minion characters in particular, they're going to want to get a lot of
that's not
spirit
too bad.
because all minions are paid for with
that's
the
the way that
same
I see it
resource.
too.
So what we're going to do here is, in order to use Spirit, effectively what you do is you go to the skill screen, and if you've got minions there, you can just click the little plus
See,
button.
they haven't even
get
shown
some
like
extra
all the
minions,
like you can get
and,
heavy
there you go.
skeletons, like
Now,
big
these are
like
permanent
boss
minions,
level
which means that if
skeletons
they
and
die,
stuff like that
they're
too.
going to respawn
They haven't
again
even shown
automatically.
any
You
of
don't
that
have to
stuff.
spawn them constantly, and that means that that's during boss fights and things like that. It makes it a lot easier. You don't have to worry about having to have corpses every time, that kind of thing. But we also do want to support large minion armies, and because of that, we also have minion skills that you can summon from corpses as well. So all
I
these little
reckon you'll be able to
scorpions
do
here,
like an
those are summoned
Arise
from
sort of
corpses.
like
While you're
minion
clearing, you'll
setup,
get
like
large
out of the
armies.
anime, and
During
have
boss
like
fights,
a
it'll be
really
little more
good like
focused,
skeleton
using the,
minion,
minions,
followed up by
permanent
like all
minions
the
for the most
pleb
part.
minions.
Now he's also got some other supporting skills, a lot of things focusing on chaos damage. So he's got a skill called
Yeah,
Contagion
like
that'll spread
controllers
between
are gonna be a
monsters,
bit of a
and
game
other
changer
things like
moving
Essence
forwards.
Drain and so on, like just a few other chaos damaging skills.
I'd say
the
the
other thing
last
with minions is that
Ascendancy
all
is
the
the
permanent minions come
OG
with extra
Necromancer
abilities, that
Ascendancy.
you
I'd
can
say
create
they're just not
manually.
adding it
So you
in
see those little
because
markers on your
it's
minions.
boring.
You can
Like,
use those to explode your minions.
in concept,
so that's
it's
the
boring.
arsonists. It's their ability. They'll throw a little bomb and explode your minion. There's also other ones. For example, the snipers have the ability to create little gas clouds. And the more minions you have, the more often you can use those abilities. So effectively, it means that each minion also effectively serves as an extra skill as well as being a meat shield for you as well.
Like it looks so good. Minion skills
That's a quick
just look so
introduction
good.
to the witch. But now we're going to show off the mercenary.
People are totally going to
Actually,
make
wait,
that
no,
work without
we
extra
did miss
skills.
something. Sorry about that. Right, so just one other quick thing I wanted to show you as well is that the witch has a lot of other summoning options, even beyond just the ones that we've picked, because she also has things called specters. So basically, anytime you kill a monster on the ground, it can be turned into a specter. We've actually created one here from Act 1 called a cultist archer. They cost quite a bit of spirit, so we're going to unsummon a couple of the arsonists and put this cultist archer in.
I'd say that you
Now, the
could
nice thing
probably
is that
easily
because lots of,
recreate
monsters
these four
in Path of
skills.
Exile have different interesting
Hey, Blaston,
abilities,
how's it
all
going,
those
dude?
abilities can be used by
Blazing.
the summoner as well. So this one has the ability to summon these like purple polyp things that both slow monsters and add weakness to chaos damage as well.
Thanks for following, dude.
She's using it there with those little things that exploded there. Because those are going to make monsters weaker to chaos damage, it'll be a very good part of this build. It's not as many minions, but the nice thing is that it'll actually end up being more DPS, and I think for bosses it probably is better for this build than not. That's what these little polyp things are. All right, so moving on. Let's have a quick look at the Mercenary. So the Mercenary is another ranged character, but this time using crossbows. Now, the main difference between a crossbow and a bow is that crossbows fire instantly, and they also have an ammo mechanic where effectively, you fire until your clip is empty. And
I
then you
don't
have to
mind the
reload.
ammo mechanic.
So it plays a
I
lot
think
more
they said
like
like get
FPS.
up to like
And we've got lots of
16,
type of
16
FPS
bolts or
type,
something like that.
weapons as well.
in a
I
clip.
just changed to WSD here because this character plays a lot better in that way. So if you've got like a shotgun type weapon,
I know, right? I'm going to unpack it and do a full video
you've
on it
got
later
a
on
assault
today.
rifle type weapon.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Christian. It's just crazy the amount
Various
of
other types. You've
QOL.
also got attached grenade launchers and things like sniper rifle type weapons and so on. Now, this plays very differently to the other classes, but I think it's really fun. It's just like a whole different sort of feeling of the game. This particular area is called Doyani's Sanctum. He's doing a lot of
Yeah.
experiments on humans, and is very interested in
Switch
anatomy.
that
and kind of
G
merging
out
with
the F and
machines.
call it. It's
There's
actually
a pretty
fun.
interesting chest on the
I
wall
hate
there that I
bow
quite
builds.
like. If you click on that one, just
I reckon that'll probably be something they do.
there's a
FPG
cadaver on the wall that like
eventually.
slices up and drops some items. So that's kind of fun. We actually originally just had half a person there, but it really just looked like an anatomy diagram, so we needed to do something to show the fact that
It's
it was
pretty-
actually a modeled human there. So
Pretty
that was
bloody.
fun.
It's pretty on the chin, that stuff. It's pretty good. I like some. Look at that. That's
So,
just, that's totally. that's some
one
Rick
of the
and
other things
Morty
we haven't even
stuff.
talked about, which is another really important character development system
Or
in
like
Path of Exile, is
out
of
of
course
Predator.
items. So now items in Path of Exile work like many other action RPGs, but I think that we do a particularly good job of having interesting affixes and suffixes. If you have a look at the items on the character, like they generate. We have
Notice this here. This is interesting. So basically, like you get abundance of exalts, whatever. But this is the theory of chaos is less valuable, is a lot more valuable and a lot rarer, and that's basically what we can see.
normal magic, rare, and uniques. Magic items can have up to 2 mods. Rare items can have up to 6. And effectively, each of the
I
different
know,
slots
this ruins
has
every
a pool of mods
ARPG.
that's unique to it. But one of the other things that's sort of really important about PoE
It is.
crafting
It really is a
items.
game made for
So
everybody.
here we have different crafting items that allow you to add affixes to items. If you use an Orb of Transmutation, it'll turn this magic item to a 1 mod
They did.
magic.
It's got the right
if you use
amount
an
of
Orb of
gothic and
Augmentation,
everything
it'll
else.
add an extra mod to make it into a 2 mod magic. You've also got Regal Orbs that will turn it into a 3 mod rare, which is normally that I've 4, but if you do it this way, you get 3. And then you can use Exalted Orbs to add more mods than that to make up to 6 mods. Now, something in Path of Exile 2 that's very different than PoE 1 is that these currency items to add mods to items are much, much more common than they were before, and you're really going to be expected to use them throughout
That's
the campaign.
crazy.
It's like a really important element of player power.
Bringing new players
We've actually
into it.
changed the way
I
the
wanna know
scaling
what
works in
the-
quite a lot
that
of elements
shield
to kind
is.
of try and make it so that picking up like new blue items is going to actually be an interesting choice for you. Using regals and exalts in them are pretty interesting, and also you get regals by selling by disenchanting rares.
I reckon
as well.
there will be
So
fishing,
effectively,
man.
you can get quite a lot
By
of regals in order
concept,
to upgrade
it would
items
make
to,
sense if
to
they
rares,
added fishing into the
relatively
game,
easily.
to be honest with you.
So now these crafting items, the other thing that's important about them is you can use them on any base type, not just items you can equip. They're used throughout the game for many different purposes, for the end game
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
it.
And many
Plus
other
it's got
things.
help
So,
screens and everything
you
in
can
it
use
now.
them on flasks and charms. There's all sorts of places where you can use them. So
Very new
it's
player
definitely
friendly.
something that you're going to want to master and play around with. Now, the other items, of course, that we have is lots and lots of unique items. There are hundreds of them in PoE
So we got Corpse Weave, which is basically like the old Corpse Walkers.
2. There'll be hundreds and hundreds more as we go along. Some of them are pretty interesting. They all do things. They aren't just upgraded rares. They all do something kind of interesting. So, for example, here we have
They
a
probably
called
will
Corpse
add in.
Wade.
They probably will add
put
in
that on
new-
there, and
new,
then you walk through a corpse.
currencies
it'll
over
make them
time, but
explode
I
and
think
turn into
initially
little
it's
puffs
good that
of
there's
green
fewer.
chaos damage there. That's not something you're going to get on a rare item. Another one here is called Sands of Silk.
I think if you
put
play
this
at
one on, what it's
Pathfinder,
going to do
those
is
boots are
change your
probably
dodge
good.
roll into a teleport, into a blip that can blink through monsters. Once again, not something you get on a rare, but there's a few others here that are kind of interesting.
The
This
whole
next
game
one
is
here
just super
called Couture
polished.
of Trim-
So what do we got here? We got 25% reduced life, 48% reduced bleed duration, life leech can overflow maximum life. So if you're playing like the Titan, this would be absolutely perfect.
in. It makes life leech
But the armor
overflow
is low.
maximum life, so as you attack monsters, you can get like over health above your normal
Could
maximum.
actually be good for the
if you're
Witch
using
Hunter.
life leech. Another one here, for example, pretty simple in some ways.
Cool
is
Rain,
Quill Rain.
pretty
This thing
standard.
here just has ridiculous attack speed, if you but low damage. If you want to make an
So if you're going to play Quill Rain, you'll probably be playing Pathfinder, and you'll probably be playing around with poisons.
interesting bow build where you're just making where you want to
Because
hit
there's a thing called double poison as well, or double poison support, and basically you can you can take your like toxic rain equivalent, right, and then double poison and then proc that. The idea with poisons is to stack as much poison as possible in a short amount of time.
huge amounts of times. Don't necessarily care about the damage dealt.
Overflow
Quill Rain
is
doing something
overflow.
for you.
It just keeps. It's
Or
like
another
the
one
old
here called the
overflow
Wailing
or
Wall.
overleach
This one
with
here
the.
disables shield skills, but makes you able to block damage from all hits
So that's basically the old block mechanic, but
without having to raise your shield. So effectively, if you want to be able to block a lot of damage, but you don't care about being able to use other shield skills, this could be a good one. So all of these are what we call build enabling. They're interesting things that you might be able to build a character around, do something interesting with.
Yeah,
and they're a
items
big
look
part
way
of
better than
how the
PoE
in-game,
1, to be honest with you.
things that you can find at in-game, things that you're going to be sort of going throughout the game, things that might affect how your character is played.
Yes, but you can't block hits that are like where they go into red mode. So like if the boss attack like glows red, it's an unblockable hit. So this is Doriani.
I bear the burden of our future!
So it'd be interesting because yeah, theoretically you should be able to block all of that.
Pathetic.
Yeah, this game's gonna be nuts. I think this will pull a lot of players in. Bosses don't seem too bad to fight. What's the damage at? Yeah, I'd say the end game is going to be a lot slower, but it'll be a lot more rewarding.
Justify the means. Let's see how you handle this. I can't give up. Not now. The cataclysm must be stopped.
Pretty crazy.
So you would take
The
our
boss
devices and doom us? I think not. I will fight to the...
Listen, I'm just here for the lady. There's no need for all this.
That'll be a war banner.
I've got you now. Free! Please!
Yeah, I'd say so. No, I'm not gutted that Delve isn't coming back because the whole endgame is Delve, dude. It's basically the whole map just plays like Delve.
Are within my grasp.
Like, Delve will eventually make its return, but, like, my thing was more so tanks and stuff like that. Delve is just one of the things I do. Build guides are what I'm the best at. And off-meta and theory crafting and stuff like that.
Fatal ambition.
Yeah, like the map system, everything is Delve. Biomes, everything is Delve. It's perfect. It's literally an endgame made for someone like me. Yeah, well, we may see builds that just defy logic and insta-pop. You never know. Anything could happen at this stage. I reckon if they were going to make Delve, it'd be like you go down like a well or something like that, or a tunnel, and then it would flip the map upside down. I think there'll be a mechanic to stop that. I don't think they'll put a mechanic where you totally brick the map, or there'll be a way to reset nodes or something like that. There'd have to be. The biggest issue will be just before like a boss fight where there's no other adjoining nodes, and if you brick that node, the boss is forever unattainable. That's where you're gonna really be like, oh damn. Yeah, you can. I don't know if they're bringing that into the early access though. That might be later down the track because that's the Huntress. It's totally random. So they confirmed every single map is totally random in every encounter.
So far we've been showing you footage from the campaign. One of the really important things in any action RPG is the end game. Now, something that happens almost every time a new action RPG launches is people saying there isn't enough end-game content. We really want to make sure that in PoE2 people don't feel that way.
There's tons
and
of
it's something that we
in-game
actually
content.
changed our priorities for as a studio relatively recently. Now, the first 3 acts of PoE2 take around 25 hours to complete. This is already longer than many campaigns in other games. On the other hand, people spend hundreds of hours in in-game. We realized that finishing the rest of the campaign for early access instead of working on in-game would actually be a very bad idea.
You're not going to be getting bored.
So instead of having acts 4 to 6 in early access, it's much better for us to concentrate on in-game and make that great. If you're a new player, a 25-hour campaign is already a huge game with plenty of content. But if you're an existing action RPG player, then what you're going to care about is the in-game challenges that you have to complete.
It does have
If we launch with a
vibes.
double-length campaign and a bad in-game, we'd effectively have to say, hey, trust us, a good in-game is coming later. But if we launch with a 25-hour campaign and a great in-game, then people can easily understand what's coming when we say, oh, yeah, and there's 3 more acts coming really soon.
Yeah, I agree with that
Now, in early
approach.
access, there are 50 bosses currently and around 400 monster types. But effectively, the game is going to double in size during early access and to be 6 acts with 100 bosses and around 800 monster types.
It's pretty crazy amount of content.
Now, the great thing is the rest of the game is like 80% there, and so we'll be adding content very quickly during early access, and so you can expect to see a lot of that coming really quickly. Now, in order to make the end game happen at the same player level, we've had to add a second difficulty called Cruel difficulty, where you repeat the campaign with all the monsters and bosses harder, but also better rewards. If you sort of look at it in traditional game terms, you can think of it as a kind of like new game plus type thing.
Boxes are something
but we've actually
way
made quite
bigger.
a lot of changes to the game throughout as well, which you'll probably enjoy as well. And that'll take you to around level 65, which is where the end game begins. So,
the good part.
Let's talk about what the end game is. So in PoE, there are many different in-game grinds. One of the things that's kind of really important is that people feel like they've got a choice between many different types of activities in the
I'm super keen for
in-game.
Ultimatum for double crafting.
So for PoE2, at the start of early access, we're going to have 8 primary in-game grinds that you can do, all of which have their own sort of systems for leveling them up, improving them, unique rewards, player power that you can get only from them. And we're going to introduce the first 2 of them
Notice
right
that
here,
menu hasn't been changed. It's still
during the
showing
campaign,
flask sockets.
which are the Ascension trials. So the Ascension trials in Path of Exile 2
links in the
encounter them
description
in
on
the
the
campaign
YouTube
to
video.
start with, but then they level up all the way to endgame and they have interesting mechanics. So this first one here is called the Trial of the Sekimas, and it's actually a sequel to Sanctum League from PoE 1. So we've actually done quite a lot of sequels to leagues from PoE 1 with new mechanics and new stuff, but all of them have new things going on. So basically, in order to the Trial of the Sekimas is a place where the Maraketh came to be tested and gain power. In order to gain entry, you need a coin containing the soul of a djinn, and then once you put it in the relic altar there, then you can enter and start playing. Now, the trial is made up of various different rooms, and it works a little bit like a roguelike type encounter system, where effectively you pick each room, and then within each room there's a different challenge. This one is a ritual trial, I think, which has these monster summoners. So they're effectively summoning monsters, and you want to be able to kill those as fast as you can to complete the room.
I still don't know how I feel about Sanctum being like the first Ascendancy trial. I've never been a huge fan of Sanctum, but it scales with armor and stuff like that too, so honor is attached to how much armor you have and everything else.
That one was relatively easy.
Yeah,
So once
I'd
you've
say
completed the
like a
room,
lot
you
of
can
the
go
Path
into
of
the next room to
Exile
get your
1 leagues that
reward.
have been like trial leagues and test mechanics are basically being
Now in this case we have a silver
culmination
key.
of what we have now.
Keys can be used at the end of the
yeah,
trial
12 classes
to be
as well,
able to
man.
get
12 classes is so
rewards.
much.
But effectively, you have to be able to survive the entire
Plus
trial
we've
to be
only
able to
got
claim
2
them.
Ascendancies of the 6
Now
that
this
we
is the
have
map
currently,
for the
so
trial,
it's more like 40%
and you can
of
effectively
the game
pick what
release.
type of room you'd like to go to next. There are a few different issues.
Pizza, it's the
One of
same
them
here,
is
man.
that,
Like every time there's news, I'm like, oh
the next
man, now I
room will
gotta
have
break it
a
all down and do another
so
video.
for a type of trial, for example, here's an hourglass trial, and it also has a type of reward, but also some of them have boons or afflictions that might get you. So this one says, for example, when you enter it, that it'll afflict you with blunt sword on entry, which means you and your minions deal 40% less damage. We probably don't want to do that as a minion build, but they have better rewards in exchange
I
for
feel
that.
like unless you're
So
like a
once you pick your
Sanctum
room,
player,
you
this
can go
one's
into,
the one that you just go
go
like,
into the
alright,
next
let's
one.
get through it to get the Ascendancy, and then you'll never touch it again. Like for me, I'd probably never touch this one again. Yeah, that's it.
Now this one's a
Sanctum
time
is just,
trial. You
I
have to
don't know, I
survive
don't know how I feel
for
about Sanctum.
and kill all the monsters. Now, one thing that I didn't mention at the start of this is that, unlike in the normal game, if you take hits in this mode, then you're going to lose a resource called honor. If you run out of honor, then you have to leave the trial. So effectively, you want to really try and play these runs as hitless as possible. And that means that all the monsters we've selected usually have to be avoidable in some way, have dodgeable mechanics, and that's sort of why Octavian is playing as safely as he possibly can here. He doesn't want to get too close to the boss or that monster there, because he doesn't want to lose honor. Oh yes, it is. Okay. No, it's okay. Don't worry about it.
Original videos.
Right, so once the
yeah.
trial's complete, once again, you can go and get the reward, which in this case is a bronze key again, because we picked one that had the same reward. We'll do one more. So that one's a sacred fountain, the chalice
man.
trial. Yeah, sure, let's do it. All right, cool. The next one's called a chalice trial.
I think
Effectively,
you gotta
there's
like
a
roguelite
blood
to be
chalice
into
here,
roguelite.
which you need to fill with blood by killing rare monsters in this area. Once you've killed all the rare monsters, you can continue. Now there are a lot of different rooms in
I reckon they'll still add the lab back
trial.
as a last trial.
There are around
the fourth
70
trial will be
in
Uber lab.
level 1, and they're random, what you get each time. So you should expect each run to feel
man,
quite
Warrior's
different,
gonna
and
be
the kind
sick.
of stuff you can expect to find, the kind of boons and afflictions you get, the monsters that you'll face, this kind of thing. All of these are very different. And there's also 4 floors as well. This is just the first floor. Each floor looks different and has different mechanics, rewards, and so on as well. So there's quite a lot of content here. And once again, like I said, there's got to be ways as well for it to sort of expand into endgame, have more, have ways
I
to
reckon
expand.
trial 3 will be
ways
towed up.
to,
Last trial
make
will
it
be
both
like
more,
Izara
damage
returns.
and-
Just to like throw back to PoE 1. Yeah, it'll be towed up.
Where's that other rare?
Ascendancies for the Titan,
There it is.
and also all of this footage as well. So 3 points. Yeah, there's a lot. More information, more gameplay. This one
that
got
one.
uploaded today, I think.
Death is my power to wield.
All right. So that's this trial complete. And once again, you can get the reward you picked, which I believe was Sacred Water in this case. So Sacred Water is a resource that you can use throughout your run. Effectively, it's a currency that can be used in a shop that you can find throughout the run as well. Water is obviously a very hard resource in the desert. So in the interest of time, what we're going to do now is skip to the last room in this floor of the sanctum, which is a boss room.
Formidable. Steel yourself.
All right, so here we have Rattle Cage.
Bosses just look so good. Oh yeah, it's just pure polish all the way. Like, this is what a game should be when it comes out. Like, not rushed out the door, like properly developed and complete. No worries, man. I'll be doing a video on all the leaks and all the info around that later on, so I've got notes here. So there's like 2 or 3 videos I'll work on before the end of the day. Rating everything in Tomb Lords, right? Oh yeah. Like, and like once we get the game, we're going to see so much more. Like, we're only living off reveals right now and leaks. We haven't even seen the game. Like, the feel of it is going to be a totally different thing altogether. Yeah, exactly. There's so many features that it's exciting. I don't know, man. Like, go remember, you ain't leveling up at this stage. Like,
So that's the boss of the end of the first floor of the sanctum, but there's lots more bosses in
all
Sanctum
the
to
soundtrack's
find.
awesome.
As I said, there's multiple floors. They each have interesting things. Now, at the end of each floor, you'll get the ability to pick from various different chests. The keys that drop give the ability to open these caches here. So you want to pick which one because each of them have different types of rewards in them. Now, the other thing that you get to do here is use the Altar of
ranged always
Ascendancy.
has a bit of an advantage to melee, but I feel like there's
now,
enough
unfortunately,
gap
we forgot
closed
to
with
reset
melee.
the Ascendancy class, so you're not going to be able to see the list there when we did the thing before. But effectively, once you've the first time you use the Altar of Ascendancy, you get to pick between 3 different Ascendancy classes. In early access, there's only going to be 2 available for each class, and we're going to be adding the rest later. And those give you interesting things that are only available to your class because no other class gets those things on the passive tree. Now, with Ascendancy classes in PoE2, we've really tried to do a lot better in terms of how interesting the things are. For example, this particular class, and because I can't see the name on the screen, I forgot what it's called, Infernalist, right? It's got some pretty interesting abilities. One of them here is called the Hellhound. So this one gives the ability to summon a Hellhound. When you summon it, it has a few abilities. One of them is that it sets everything next to it on fire.
See that crazy thing there? Did anyone pay attention to that? So, all the skills that are in the game
it's got
can
some
be
pretty interesting
supported
abilities. One
in
of
the
them here is called the
skill window,
Hellhound.
right?
So
Which
this
means
one gives
like
the
the
ability to summon a
Chronomancer,
Hellhound.
everything can all be
when
set
you
to
summon
auto
it,
trigger. So yeah, your Ascendancy skills can be supported in the game. So basically, like with all the Chronomancer skills and everything, right, for time control and everything, you could set them up to auto trigger if you're playing slams.
It has a few abilities. One of them is that it sets everything next to it on fire. It's a minion, so because we're a minion class, this can be really useful. But also, it takes damage for you. Every time you take damage, it gets transferred to the Hellhound. So, he's a really good boy.
Yep.
Another one that's really interesting is that, if we just respec quickly away from that, is turning into a called demon form. So when you use demon form, you turn into a demon. While you're a demon, you lose life constantly, but you also have much higher spell damage.
You look at this, you look at D4, you're like,
cast speed. The longer you survive, the higher those numbers get. So but you're going to continuously take damage. So you're probably, if you're going to use this, you probably want to do a build that involves getting high life regeneration in some manner, so you can survive as long as possible and do a large amount of damage. So that's an example of just 2 nodes from the Infernalist. But of course, there's lots of interesting nodes.
Did they
there,
say
and,
that
you're
that
gonna
was
want to,
percentage? Because
send-
if that's
get more points by doing
percentage
more
per
Ascension
second, then
trials,
if you play CI,
then
you have 1
continue
HP,
to, get more
and then you just
firepower.
need 1 life regeneration.
Now in PoE2,
and
you
that'll
actually all of the
that'll
Ascension
cheese that
trials.
mechanic.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, we haven't even finished this one yet.
So like you could run that and
Where
be
was I?
infinitely in demon
All right,
mode.
that's right. Okay, so let's talk about how this extends into Endgame. So effectively, as you go through this trial, you might find items called relics. And relics are these items here, which can be crafted. You can see an example of
hands
the blue
down.
one here. This one says
Well,
monsters
no,
have a
it'll get a
4%
5
chance
out of 10 on
to
IGN
drop double
because
sacred
that's just
water
how
and
it
gain
is
16
with
sacred water at
IGN.
the start of the trial.
They're
Now, these are
going,
ways
"Oh, no,
that
the
you
game's too
effectively
good."
improve your odds as you go through. But there's some pretty interesting ones as well. Let's have another look at another couple. Bosses deal 4% reduced damage. These ones are very low level and simple, but they can get quite powerful. If you click on the relic altar before you start your run, put a coin in, then you've got these slots here that you can put the relics in, and you can also unlock more slots by doing more. By doing this more in order to be able to put more in. There are also unique relics, like for example this one here that says that the boss at the end of the entire trial will drop a specific unique item, but your maximum
Yeah,
honor is
exactly.
1,
No
which
one
means you can
trusts
take
that, yeah.
exactly 1 hit, which means that
They'll
you
be
need to
like,
do a hitless run in
Diablo
order to be able
12
to
out of 10,
get that unique.
PoE 2 out of 10.
So there are lots of other interesting unique relics that do other things. You know, the ability to extend this and get the end game is pretty high.
Not
And one of the
necessarily.
reasons you're going to want to do that is because like all of these different
No,
end-game mechanics, there's
bleed
unique
is
player
bleed
power
is
that only
afflicted
comes
to
from
the
it.
energy shield.
So in this particular case, we have jewels. Jewels are coming back in PoE2 as well. You can see an example of one of them here. These are things that you can socket into your passive tree to be able to get more get more stats.
Poison damage would
so
be
this one says
equivalent to chaos
15%
damage
increased
and does
maximum
double
energy
damage to
shield, and
energy
minions
shield, I
have plus
think.
7% to all
So I
elemental
think
resistances.
poison will still affect
Now,
you,
because of
but
the
it
fact
won't
that you
cut
can
through
roll
your
these
energy
yourself
shield, it'll
and
just
stack them,
decrease
there's
it
some pretty
faster.
interesting things you can do with jewels. And there's also jewels that have other kind of random and weird effects. Like, for example, this one here says upgrades, says that 25% increased effect of small passive skills and radius. So this one actually modifies the other skills
That's
on the
pretty
passive
cool.
tree to improve them. You know, with some interesting things and some interesting overlaps, you can do some pretty cool stuff with those as well. There are, of course, unique jewels and other things going on, and I won't go too much into it, but effectively, this does scale all the way in-game, has uniques, has ways to scale it, and a lot of interesting things you can do. The next trial we're going to talk about is the Trial of the Chaos God. Now, unlike in PoE1, every time you want to get more Ascendancy points, there's a new trial that you have to do to do that. So this is the second trial that you can do, and once again, it's also an in-game mechanic that that can be expanded upon. So we're going to use the Mercenary for this one. Now, this is the one you're going to encounter in Act 3 for the first time, but as I said, it extends to in-game as well. Finishing the Ascension trial was kind of an ancient rite for the Vaal that conveyed power and respect. Entry requires a token from a strange entity called the Trial Master. And this is actually a sequel to a leak from PoE1 called Ultimatum, but it works very differently. So to start with, he's going to offer the trial, make the offering to the trial, and then he can walk in. Now, before you enter each room in the Trial of the Chaos God, you're going to have to pick from one of the downsides that's going to affect you for the entire rest of the trial.
Don't play the game.
So the Trial Master is here, and he's going to offer you an item to start with. Here's the item that you're going to get if you complete this room. And he's also going to say, pick one of these 3 things that's going to potentially hurt you. In this case, we're going to pick blood globules, which will one of the easier ones. And what that's going to do is mean that these blood balls are going to appear above your head and slam down periodically.
Are you ready, Challenger?
As you walk into the room, he's going to summon a bunch of these monsters. Now, each of the rooms has different mechanics. This one's very simple. You just have to kill all the monsters.
Not today.
That's alright. He's been.
That's that
There'll be
blood
no
globule I
disruptors.
talked about earlier.
Just people getting along.
Now, the blood
Hell
globule
yeah,
may
man.
not seem
It's
very
gonna be an
threatening
awesome
right now,
game.
but as you go through each room, you're going to add more and more mechanics that are going to hurt you, and so it can get quite intense by the time you've gotten to the end.
One there. Who's next?
There we go.
Yeah,
so
no,
we've
don't
defeated all the
tolerate
monsters in this
bullshit.
room, and we can move on to the next one.
Thanks, Qui-Gon.
So as we move to the next room, once again, the Trial Master is going to give us a choice. Basically, sort of double or nothing. Do you want to take another reward and make the game harder again? Or do you want to take the rewards you've already received so far and leave with your ill-gotten gains? In this case, obviously, like most players, you're probably going to want to pick another reward and keep going. So there's the existing one, blood globules, and that'll keep stacking up. But we're also going to add shocking turrets here.
So they're different
We're going
to
to add
Path of
turrets
Exile
through
1.
through the
'cause
room,
I've
which
played a lot of
you'll have to
automated
deal with as well.
mostly.
Now, this one is a trial that requires, it's a timed encounter type trial.
Live.
Okay.
As you can see, there's those lightning turrets there now, which you
Jesus
also have to deal
Christ,
with.
like,
And it's going to
just
spawn a lot
pretty
of monsters
hectic.
that you
Like,
have to
that just
survive.
goes from 0 to 2,000 in
You don't
like
have
a
to actually
second.
kill all of them. If the time runs out, then they're all going to go away. So, yeah, you can, you just have to survive.
I need more power in my life.
And the Val had a culture of risk-taking, so all these kind of risk versus reward mechanics very
Nah,
much
you get
work for
tons
them.
of stuff with ultimatum.
The way
You
they
get a lot
crafted
of
and a bunch
double
of other things like
corrupted
that all
items
sort
that
of
come
relate
out
to
of
this kind of
ultimatum.
risk-taking behavior.
That's it. That's how I feel too. Like, why play anything else? PoE is the only game now. The only ARPG.
Uh-oh.
He's
Only got 4
totally dead.
seconds.
He's
Survive
gonna get
for 4
wrecked.
seconds. Yeah. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, they added
Managed to
freaking
flask through
dinosaurs
it,
in.
so it's okay.
My tank build is going to eviscerate that stuff. It's gonna be easy.
So as you get towards the end game, there'll be a very significant number of rooms you can do in
Ah,
a row.
no, it doesn't look too tough. You're playing tanky
you
characters,
can just
should
keep
be
on
good.
making it harder and harder. In this first version of it,
See that there, right? So
managed to flask through it, so it's okay.
that corruption there, right? So the big advantage for anyone who hasn't played Path of Exile 1 or is new to Path of Exile, the big advantage of
So as you get
ultimatum
towards the
is
end game, there'll
pre-corrupted
be a very
items
significant number
or
of
double
rooms you can do
corrupted
in a row.
items.
I
So when he
mean,
puts the
you can
cursor
just keep
over
on
there.
making it harder and harder. In this first version of
So ultimatum always gives you a corrupted item, right? And usually, like, they've got like corruptions have implicits. And so basically, if this works the way that I think, you could farm this mechanic and get some of the craziest double corrupted items if they exist in this game that exist in Path of Exile. Like insane corrupts.
you're going to
Like
in this
fortification
first
on
version
hit
of
if
it,
that
you only have to do
exists,
4
like all
rooms
sorts
to
of
be able
stuff
to
like
ascend.
that.
But
That's
once
why I
again,
think
if you can't do them
ultimatum's
all
going
in
to
a
be
row
like
in
really
one go
good for
without
farming
dying,
dope
then
gear.
you'll lose your entry ticket, so you'll have to get another one to get in. So once again, like the other challenge, you'll want to be make sure that you're ready before you do this trial.
Exactly, yeah.
Now this particular one involves pushing this idle forward.
I
When you
like
leave the
this
idle, it
too.
moves
I think
forward.
this is way
When
better.
you're, as you get further away, it falls down and doesn't move anymore. So
It lets you deal with
ideally,
the mechanic, not just get like plastered when it gets too
you can
hard.
get close to it. Now, as you move it forward, it's also going to spawn these, trigger these monster elevators with monsters that are going to come down as well.
Not dinner.
Yeah, I'm going to be grinding uniques out of it. No worries, Lee. The music's nuts. The music's amazing.
All right, finally. That one dragged a little bit, but it's okay. We finally got there in the end. All right.
Yeah,
So
I'd say
just like in
tattoos would
Sanctum, there
come
are
back.
also
It makes
bosses that
sense.
you can get as you go through here. The order of them is random, and so they can be very hard or relatively easy depending on when you encounter them and what things that you've picked beforehand. Before the boss, once again, the Trial Master will ask you to pick. Do you want to bail now or do you want to pick something else?
Flute guy just goes mad. Yeah, like the old mechanics are great.
So
Like
here's one of the
for
bosses.
anyone
you
going
can
on either
find
using
in the
old
Trial of the
mechanics,
Chaos God.
it's not original. That's a crazy comment to make because the old mechanics make a Path of Exile a Path of Exile. Thanks for following this, Blonde. Thanks for the sub too, dude. Oh, look. Just in case the boss looks insane. Right? Yeah, that's it. everything looks crazy, but
That tornado has killed him the most times in practice.
I think the final boss version is going to be nuts. Yeah, the game is like, they designed it so basically you can see what's going on. That was one of the biggest issues in Path of Exile 1. Sometimes you would lose your character when like stuff was just getting too hectic. Oh, you probably want to play it on your PC monitor, maybe? Hey Raptor. This came out today. It was posted on the open game something. No, it doesn't bypass energy shield. It attacks the energy shield, but it'll attack the energy shield at an increased rate. Like,
so that's as far
chaos
as we're going to go
damage
in
just
this trial for
the
now,
amount of,
at this low
damage
level.
or
And
rate.
of course, once again, you'd be able to ascend here if this is as far as you can get during the campaign. But there's a lot more stuff you can get. So the Trial Master now is going to give you the rewards that you've earned throughout the trial, and there are a lot of rewards that are unique just to this trial. So let's go through a few of these that we've got here.
Yeah.
Now the first thing is going to offer, one of the things we've got here is an
game.
item with a socket in it. Now, we removed gem sockets from PoE2, but we've actually re-added back sockets in a much more traditional way as things that you can put items in to get extra mods. So if you have a look down the left there, you can see a thing called a soul core. This is a soul core of thunder. If you put it in a weapon, you get lightning damage. If you put it in a shield, then
I reckon they'll have like
armor,
unique runes that will give you
10% lightning
the culmination
resistance.
of a word.
This is player
and it'll
power.
build
You
in
can't
the
get any other
implicit.
way than sockets.
It
And
would
it's
make
only
sense.
unlocked
Like,
through
why wouldn't
content that you can get through here. Now, if you want to be able to actually add sockets to existing gear as opposed to using the sockets that are on gear that you get from here, you're going to have to use these things called Vile Orbs. Vile Orbs modify things unpredictably, and they work a little bit differently than they used to in PoE1. Now, the first thing I want to mention is the fact that these corrupt items, and what that means is that after you've used this, you can't use it on another item again. So that's the last thing you want to do in your crafting step.
In Path of Exile 1, they had corrupted fusings and corrupted, like, it came from Beyond League, and potentially they may add that back in.
This particular one here rolled with it got an extra mod. It got 14 to 20 chaos damage as an extra
That's
mod.
an insane mod to get.
But they can also do other things.
Like
so we'll use it on
enemies
some of our gear
explode,
here. You can
area
equip it.
explode.
You think you can leave it equipped? Yeah. So we're going to use it on his bow here.
Just going to brick all your
so
gear.
that one gave him a socket. Excellent. So now he'll be able to upgrade his bow with a soul core to get an extra mod. So that's really valuable. Probably wouldn't have picked that one, but that's fine. That's what he had. Then
there'll
we
be
also
unique soul
got
cores,
some other
100%.
results. That one. Okay, so that one just modified random mods on the item. So probably not good, not what you wanted. That's a bad outcome.
Yep.
On the other hand here, all right, added another mod, 25% increased armor and evasion. That's a very good roll.
That's almost like Crucible. That looks very similar to Crucible. In fact, that is almost exactly looking like Crucible. So, basically with this, you want to 100% your armor with quality. And then basically beyond that, then you want to hit it. Previously, this was a pain in the butt because it could break or brick the 6-link sockets, but now that's not even a risk. So
effectively, the thing
what you're going to find is there's going to be a lot more instances where you're corrupting gear than you used to.
with these things is that you're going to get random results. You don't probably want to use them on the items that you've got equipped because they're likely to potentially damage them or make them worse. But there's player power that you can get from this that you can't get any other way. So it's something that you're definitely going to want to be able to do as you go through the game. Now, of course, because we got to the end here, we can also ascend. For this particular one, we might as well just ascend this character. So there's the Witch Hunter, which you could pick, and might as well just pick a simple node. I mean, there's a basic one that's just Culling Strike. You might as well pick that. We didn't actually plan to show this character class.
I don't think bricking is going to be a big problem. I think bricking is going to be fine now because basically you're going to be able to craft stuff a lot more fluidly. If you brick it, you'd be like, well, it's not like you spent like 1,200 fusings on trying to 6-link it, right? So that was the biggest issue with bricking previously.
Doing here, so just,
the 6-link was the problem.
Now, right there, you also see
Yeah,
there's an entrance
actually, you're
to
right.
the
Yeah,
Trial
it's a
Master's
Scourge mod,
Tower.
yeah.
That's like a special endgame thing, which we're not going to show you, but effectively that's the pinnacle boss for this particular endgame grind. But let's talk a little bit about how you're going to expand on this. So if you go back to the start of the area, the keys not only have let you get into the trial, but they're also going to have mods on them as well that allow you to do different things. And just like the Vile always have, we want to make sure that there's things that have both bonuses and downsides, that they have their very double or nothing type culture. So this one here says sacrifice up to 10 exalted orbs to receive double that on trial completion. So effectively,
That's pretty
you know,
cool.
you can go double or nothing on currency as well. But it also has
Yeah,
minus
I'm gonna val
25%
everything
maximum
too,
player resistances,
honestly.
which is a pretty nasty downside.
Valing everything
You
just
can
makes
roll
sense.
these things and
You're gonna get some
you know,
mad mods.
and they have some pretty interesting mods on them. So yeah, it's once again, it's one of those things you can specialize into in game. Now, of course, there's also uniques only available
Exactly.
here,
Gotta
and
have some
various other
gamer.
things available here. So yeah, you're going to want to do that. So those are the 2 trials that extend into endgame that are during the campaign. But now we want to show you how the actual endgame, sort of primary endgame system itself works. So we're going to have to get a higher level monk to be able to show you that.
Oh,
Now, I'm
yeah.
not going to get too much into the plot of this, but this is where you're going to start in the endgame. And just like in PoE1, we have a thing called the map device that you're going to be using to travel around. But what you actually get when you click on the map device is going to be quite different. Now, the storyline here effectively is that there's
You
corruption
mean
from
Delve
the beast is
2.0.
spread across the land, and you're going to need to try
It's
and clean
Delve. Look at it.
Now,
it's
this is
Delve.
actually an
It's about as
infinitely
Delve as
scrolling
Delve
map
gets.
that goes in all directions and contains all areas you can go to. You can go to each map only one time, so you're going to want to, you're kind of try and want to find like, you know, interesting places to go. Now, this is
Thanks
the
for
primary thing to
follow,
explore
Maha.
after you finish the campaign, and there's all sorts of things to find on here. There's bosses, there's towers, there's beast corruption, there's rare areas with interesting mechanics, all sorts of in-game content that you can see these icons for around the place, and hideouts,
He'll be
roving
there. He'll be
merchants,
there.
and even
He'll come
cities.
back.
Now, effectively, in order to travel to one of these, what you're going to do is click on it, and then
I
you can
don't
travel to it
think
using
you
a
can.
waystone. Now, these waystones effectively work like
Once
maps
you
did in
completed
Half-Life
it, that's
XL1. You
it,
can
and then you
craft them
move
and
to
so
the
on
next
as well.
node.
Once you've gone to the map,
Well, the whole
you know,
endgame
then
is
what you're
this
going to find is a
Delve
randomly
map,
generated.
right?
Oh,
So this is
okay, he
wild.
immediately clicked the portal back. Classic mistake. So what you're going to find here is a randomly
It's
generated
PoE
area,
like
and
now.
we've really ramped the random generation
Path
up to
of
11,
Exile like.
for this. Obviously, all the monsters here are also
That
going to be
dev
random.
can go
and
ram
one thing I will
himself. That's
mention is that the
ridiculous,
variety
that
of monsters in
comment.
PoE2 is a lot higher, and
Ridiculous
they have a lot more
post.
interesting abilities, which means that interesting combinations of them in maps can really produce interesting results. These particular ones that were randomly picked here seem to be relatively simple, so I guess
Yeah,
that
you
point
won't be
isn't
able
that
to
well
redo
made
maps, I
today,
don't
but
think.
that's all right. Now, this monk is effectively the same kind of build that we were doing before, but it's a lot faster for in-game. But what we're going to do is
Cast
we're
on
gonna amp it up a
free- yeah,
little bit
cast
further
on
just to
freeze
sort of
is
see some of the kind of
exactly,
things that
like,
you can
that's
do,
where my
in-game
headspace
as
is
well.
at.
So after we've finished clearing this pack, then we'll do that.
That's all right. Like, it's just natural
let's open up
progression.
this, and
It's
what we're going to do is this is a
exploratory.
character that freezes a lot of things, so we're going to add a cast on freeze gem here.
I love this.
And what that's going to mean is every time you freeze a monster, it has the ability to cast whatever a spell of your choice. In this case, we're going to cast Frost Wall.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we're going to add Fortress and reduce cooldown to that so that we can cast them all
Tablets
of the
will be
time. And they're going to
consumable
go in a
after so
circle around
many
the
maps
monsters that got
completed.
frozen. So effectively, because it's going to create a lot more frozen objects around the monster, when you use your Glacial Cascade, they're going to do a lot more damage and explode for a huge amount of...
See, this is what I'm talking about. So, you know, we say like there's not going to be like 1-button builds, right? But it might be like 3-button builds, but that cast on freeze is a global modifier. So if you've got enough attack speed and like whatever, right? And the fact that you can now link that into Ascendancies, that means like the Chrono Mage or whatever it is, the Chronomancer is going to be OP because you could have cast on freeze, stop time, which is insane. You could also do increased duration, like that's nuts. Or cast on
So the
stun.
goal here is to cleanse the corruption on the map, and you do that by killing all the rares. And if
It's
there's a
not
map boss,
cast
then
when
killing the map
stunned
boss as
anymore,
well.
it's cast
Now
on
there are
stun.
map bosses that can spawn in every map. We've actually decided to not have a map boss every time you go to them, and instead you can see which areas have map bosses on the main map. What that means is that we've got the ability to have the map bosses be a lot more challenging, but also drop a lot more items as well. So because you don't encounter them quite so frequently, and you can also choose, you know, do I want to do bossing or do I want to just grind maps and do other things? So it kind of gives the player that choice. So once you've completed the map, it'll be green on the in this area, and then effectively allows you to continue to explore. Now this map is kind of somewhat randomly explored, so you know, don't concentrate too much on that. But effectively, you're going to be expanding outwards from the center.
But I reckon they're still doable.
Now, of course, the other thing you can do is craft maps with currency items. So if we get a you know, an orb of transmutation here, we can use that on there to get a mod on
Look
the
at the
item.
abundancy.
Now,
It's actually the
prefixes
same
are
breach
benefits
ring
to
model
you, and the suffixes are
from
negatives to
PoE1.
you. So this is something that we've changed a little bit how it works.
Yeah?
So that means that you can just get a map that's just a straight up boon to you if you do a single if you turn it into a magic with only one mod. But of course, if you turn it into a rare, you're going to get a variety of downsides and upsides, and all of them can have different effects. So
Exactly.
once you've
PoE-like.
cleansed corruption from maps, then you can start to unlock the Atlas tree, which allows you to further upgrade your progression
Ice Tomb
system
as
for this thing.
well.
So here's the Atlas tree here. Now I've actually made. What we've actually done here is all the different types of content have their own trees. Each one of them is kind of like an Ascendancy class, and then for that content. But there's also a primary tree that you get just for killing maps. So there's a tree here for cleansing maps. There's also a tree for killing bosses, and then trees for doing other content on the Atlas as well. So you can kind of you don't have to choose between. Well, rather, you can choose to do a piece of content, but you're not going to be losing anything from any of the other pieces of content when you decide to do them later.
Thanks,
Effectively,
Adam.
they all have their own.
Appreciate it,
kind of
man.
scale
And yeah, we
in
are
that way.
tons of stuff playing.
So
no
a random
worry.
example here, 20% increased magic monsters in your maps. Another random
Builds,
example,
player guides,
I don't
everything.
know, 20% increased quantity of waystones found on your maps. But there's also like keystones here, like rare and unique monsters in your maps have 1 to 2 additional modifiers.
You get a
It
waystone, and
also
you'll
adds
probably get
extra,
that in the last act.
extra bonuses to drops as well. So these are the kinds of things that you can get on the tree, and that's one of the progression systems as well. Effectively,
It'd be boring
is
if you
through the
played
Atlas
one
tree here.
skill in this game.
But it's
There's
also
so
kind
many
of the
good
gateway to a
synergies.
lot of the other mechanics. So, for example, here we see a map that's got this little hand icon,
Which is
and that
breach.
means that there is a breach in this map.
Yep.
There's also the boss icon there, which indicates there's a boss there as well. So we know there's a breach in there. If you're looking for breaches, this is where you want to go. You can effectively always see the content that you're going to be able to face in maps as you look around the tree. And there's also going to be mechanics for adding more
That's
of them,
pretty
which we'll talk
endgame.
about as well. So at the start, you'll just have to find them randomly, but later on you can add them to maps too. So let's have a look at this.
Yeah.
All right. So breaches. So Breach is another one of the League sequels that we've done for Path of Exile 2, and it's also one of the sort of pinnacle, like in-game content grinds that you'll be able to progress
it'll
through.
drop
Breaches
over
are
time.
effectively
It'll
small
just
fissures in
increase as
reality
time
that let you
goes.
see into an alternate plane where demons roam free. And touching a breach will cause it to expand and reveal all the demons there that are lurking on that plane. We're
that
going to have to
just
walk,
looks
unfortunately,
insane.
directly there, which is going to trigger immediately, so you won't get to see what it looks like before you trigger it. But Octavian can do that now. So
It
when
does.
you trigger
It
this
does
is
look a
horrible
little
location.
more like
When
insane
you
because it's
trigger
got
it, all
screen
these demons
shake
will
on.
start to come out of the
I reckon. I trust
plane.
these guys will probably have server under control.
Now,
There
as you
will
kill the
always be
demons,
glitches,
it's
but
going
I
to
reckon
extend the
it'll
amount
be
of
fine.
time. If you're a very good player and you can kill demons very quickly, you can keep this going for a very long time and like
I'd
cover
say
like
it's the
half the
same.
map with it. If you're not as good, or maybe your build just isn't as strong, then you're not necessarily going to be able to do that. So it's very hectic. Oh yeah, there we go. So it's ended already. So effectively,
like,
you
this
have to
is
try.
pretty crazy.
If you're very fast at kill speed, you're going to be able to take very good advantage of this particular mechanic. Now, breaches, of course, have their own rewards, which is why you're going to want to do them. Let's just have a look on the ground to see if we can find any. If you go back and have a look, did it drop any? Breach splinter. Right. So one of the so there's a couple of things that they drop. So one of them is catalysts, and the other one is splinters.
So catalysts are
So
ground
which one should we
drops.
talk about first? How about the catalysts?
Catalysts are
So
ground
catalysts
drops.
are a reward you can get only from breach, and effectively what they do is increase the quality of specific modifiers on jewelry. So this one here says adds quality that enhances life modifiers on rings and amulets. So effectively, this is going to allow him, to, if you use that on your ring or amulet,
Yeah, new breach is
it'll
gonna
allow
be
you
great.
to increase the, it'll add life quality that'll make the life roll on that amulet go up. This is an area of player power that sort of seems relatively subtle, but there's actually quite a lot to this that you can do. Breach also drops breach rings that are one of the best ring-based types because they allow quality to go up to 50,
Yeah, they are.
which means that you can use those as base
They're
types to create some
insane.
really crazy rings for the end game as well. So that's one of the forms of player power you get from only from breach. The other thing you're going to find in breach that will sort of unlock the pinnacle boss are these breach splinters. So if you collect 300 breach splinters, it'll allow you to make a breach stone that will allow you to go to
Yeah,
the breach
exactly.
domain.
And we'll
where
be
you
able
can
to
fight one of
filter
the
that even
pinnacle
more.
bosses. Now we're actually going to show you this pinnacle boss for this particular league mechanic, just because it's nice to see one.
Pinnacle
But we're not
boss.
going to show you any of the other pinnacle bosses in this demo. But all of the different types of league, all the different types of content that we have here, all have their own pinnacle bosses that
That's pretty wild.
that we can do. Now, this is effectively a map that's a single large breach, and you're going to have to be able to race through the entire map. And
They've already confirmed there'll be loot filters in the game either way.
Assault!
I'd say he's got a ton of
And this
ES
is the
though,
domain
dude.
where the demons actually live, and you can see the kind of creepy hand stuff they've got going on as their theme there. That's as it gets revealed.
It's pretty mobile. Like, you gotta admit, it's reasonably mobile for what it is. And like, this is only like T14 play, so it's gonna go wilder than this. Like, if you had better gear. Yeah, imagine this with like spellcasters or like the warrior class. Like, it's gonna be crazy. Thanks for sub-orts. Well, yeah, that's it. Like, D4, like, what's D4 gonna do against this? This is just a D4 killer. Well, notice that he's not really dying to that. So either his gear's that good, and I don't think it is, or I think the game is just more consistent. Yeah, there's no comeback for D4. Spiritborn, like, whatever. Nobody's gonna play that arena.
Crush! Looks like he did it. Alright, so now if we keep going here, we're gonna get to the boss.
We that dreamed. We in nightmare. We that are one. She of storming cruelty.
Refuse to try PoE2 because Dio. Really? That's crazy. If you're a streamer and you did that, you're just immature. The leap just feels fluid, and the thing is, you can change the direction of the leap as you're playing as well, or you can cancel the leap as well, because you can like dodge roll out of it. I think the warrior is going to be insane, to be honest with you. Yeah, exactly. It'll be Leap Slam or probably not Leap Slam, but something very similar. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so, yeah. Monk might be also tanky because of its darkness, and if there's things like, you know, for example, Doriani's, was it, some of the Doriani gems and stuff like that out of Legion that's being potentially could be added back into the game in another form, then yeah, like, you could have Divine Flesh, for example, and basically convert damage to Chaos and then overcap the Chaos damage, Chaos resistance. I'll be playing Warrior on release, hands down. I know DM Diablo likes shield skills as well. I'm a big fan of shield skills. I like to look at my enemy with a shield. It'll take away XP in the in the mapping phase, in-game phase, but not in the campaign anymore. So until you finish the campaign, you won't lose XP. And that's the other thing, like elemental shield builds would be a thing. Not sure, it depends on how high the stun cap is and whether or not you can throttle the hell out of it. I reckon you could easily modify the hell out of it to get around that problem. But like the question is, how often will you be raising shield, like, and do you have native block as well, or native block chance? Because raise shield's 100% block chance, not all block chance. Yeah, like, and it's not incompletable. The biggest thing is we'll have to get out of, like, Piano King 1 and 2. That's the biggest challenge.
The creeping dark of a murdered thought. She of wisdom.
Oh, like the bosses alone, like, make Diablo 4 look like crap.
Hear the grey winds. We die.
Yeah, exactly. The question will be who completes a level 5 tour. Yeah, shield management is going to be a new concept. I'm there for it. I'm definitely going to be doing balls around it.
We that fail.
I don't know, man.
All right, so that's an example of a pinnacle boss, and we're not going to show you the rest of them, but that's just kind of
Yeah.
give you a flavor for what an in-game
The
pinnacle boss might
early
be like.
access
But
has
just like
more
all of the
content
pinnacle
than
bosses, when you
D4
defeat them,
after
you're going
2
to get
years
points
of
for
cooking.
the Ascendancy tree. Sorry, not Ascendancy tree, for the Atlas tree for that particular content. So this is the breach one here. Now the idea is that you kill the boss, you make the whole league more difficult, and then you can beat the boss again at a higher
That's it.
difficulty and get more points. So the first point here you're going to see is +1 to Twisted Domain difficulty, which is going to effectively make breach harder. It says here difficulty causes monsters to have increased damage and toughness, as well as making them grant more experience to drop better items.
The wiki
But there's
part.
also effectively
What wiki
specific
part?
nodes that will give you interesting changes to that league mechanic. So
Oh,
for example,
Templar's gonna
classed
be-
hands
Flail's
in your
gonna be
maps
nuts.
have a 25% chance to be guarded by a pack of magic monsters. Breaches in your maps have 50% more classed hands.
Oh,
Those
really?
things are effectively like breach chests that you find as the breach expands there. So that's like a bonus that you might choose to pick. There's lots of other ones here that you could pick as well. And maps
Where do we
have
miss it?
damage and toughness as well. The boss. Let's just kind of give you a flavor for what magic monsters.
we'll keep
Breaches in your maps have 50%
pressing
more
forwards.
classed hands. Those things are effectively like breach chests that you find as the breach expands there. So that's like a bonus that you might choose to pick. There's lots of other ones here that you could pick as well.
Oh,
And as I
I'm
said,
not gonna catch
each of the
that.
different types of
don't have
content
the
all have their own
dexterity.
trees here that you can do your own stuff with. So that is actually wait. There's
I'm gonna
one more
go
thing that we forgot to
dual
tell you about.
wield
This is kind of
Chronomancer.
important, which is tablets. Okay, right. I should have gone over that earlier, so we'll just do it now. So effectively, right, when you do a breach in your maps, one of the things that you might find, and this is kind of important, are tablets. Now, tablets are items in your inventory that you can use with these towers. If you open your inventory there and have a look at just finding a good place. So when you play breaches, you might find these breach tablets. And what this does is effectively adds
exactly.
more breaches to maps in the vicinity. So this says add 8 maps in range. 8 maps in range contain breaches, and breaches in your map spawn an additional rare monster. So if you open a tower, it gives you this interface. You can put the tablet in there, and then when you use it, it affects the local area and adds a bunch of breaches around the place. So what that means is that all the content is self-reinforcing. If you want to play breaches,
so
then you're going to
disappointed
find
with the Diablo expansion.
these tablets. You're going to use those to add more breaches to maps in the area and also boost what the breaches are doing, and then which will get you more tablets, which will get you more and more and so on. So it's effectively a way to, if you're choosing breach is the thing I
It's
want to be
infinite,
doing, then
Prince.
that means
It's
that you
totally
can
infinite.
effectively self-sustain.
Like, you can go
breach,
every
for as
direction,
long as you
and
want
it's
to,
infinite.
and sort of effectively
sorry,
turn
the
your
other
map-
thing, so too, see how like you have rock ground there, you have like corruption there, you have that there, you have like zones here. These are all referred to as biomes, and different maps spawn in different biomes. And I am going to say that I'm pretty confident about this. Different drops will be within those maps and bosses. So basically, if you need a particular item or need to target farm something, at a boss, you're looking for a boss in a particular biome. I feel like that's how the game's going to work.
Map into that, this is the true for all the different mechanics that you can find on the Atlas. You know, you've got ones here for Ritual and Expedition and Delirium right there. So, all right, so that's kind of important. So what we've covered here effectively is, okay, obviously, actually, one thing I've, of course, failed to mention
post
is
the
that,
VOD on
there are
the channel
uniques you only
too
get from
afterwards.
that Pinnacle boss, of course, and so on. There are uniques you only get once you get the difficulty of that Pinnacle boss up to a certain level. So, of course, once again, each endgame grind has to have a way to expand it, a way to make it more difficult, a way to specialize into it, a way to, get rewards that are specific to that. So, next, let's talk about Expedition. So once again, we've done another sequel to a leak from PoE1. This one's Expedition. we'll put a map in here, and just to make it a little bit easier, we're not going to actually do the rest of the map. We're just going to do the expedition part of it. So what expedition is effectively there are some Kalgurans,
Man,
group
it's
of
going to be a
people
rough.
called Kalgurans
It's
who are
going to
trying
be a
to dig
rough
up
2
some
weeks.
old burial
Not gonna
sites
lie,
from their
it's going
ancestors.
to be an uphill 2
and the
weeks.
goal is try to get Verisium relics that are left over from their past. If you've played PoE1, the mechanic is quite similar. Effectively, what you're going to see is all of these markers here on the ground that are going to tell you whereabouts things are buried, and they're going to dig these.
So in PoE1, they had a search function, and you could like type at the bottom of the screen and delve, and then go to wherever you were. So it's very likely this will be the same. So you go like tier 15, for example, and it'll take you to tier 15.
Things up using explosives. So effectively, you have to choose carefully where you're going to place the explosives in order to be able to get the most amount of bonus. There are also these things called remnants here that give you both bonuses and downsides for doing them.
Don't do anything.
After you blow up the remnant, all the future monsters after that point will be stronger but more rewarding. So effectively, Octavian's going to place down some of these dynamite charges.
It's a hard 2
in a
weeks.
string, and then once he's done that, he will be able to detonate them and spawn things. Now he's choosing carefully which remnants he wants to use based on his build. He wouldn't want, for example, to make all the monsters immune to ice, because that would completely destroy him.
So the other thing here is keep an eye on this, is whether or not ward is in the game, because if ward's in the game, then technically there could be a different mechanic to play around as well with ward.
Now there are lots of interesting things to find under the ground. There's like chests, and there can often be caverns and things like that. Once you get to the end game system, the pinnacle content for this league, there's going to be bosses and so on to find and things like that. Now the purpose of killing all these monsters primarily is to get these Verisium artifacts. You can see one there that says exotic coinage, but there's various other things like that on the ground. They also have these chests that drop items. There's a broken circle artifact. And, oh look, they're unique, nice. You might as well identify it. I don't know which one that is. Let's have a look. This is just unscripted, by the way. Apron of Emerian. Bleeding you inflict is aggravated.
So PoE1 had caves under this. So basically on the map, you could like put it over the top of like a cave sort of thing, and it'll take you underground. It'll either be like a loot stash, or it'll be like a boss mechanic. And this is how you access bosses with Expedition.
Says that aggravated bleeding does 200% extra damage. Right, cool. So this is a bleed build type unique. Actually, whatever. Anyway, once you've got these artifacts,
I know, right? I've got a week off as well.
For various different rewards. And once again, I'm not, in the interest of time, I'm not going to go into too much into this, but probably one of the more interesting ones is using crafting with a guy called Rog.
Rog
we'll do that
crafting!
Look. So Rog effectively has a shop where he'll sell you different items. You can re-roll it using the currency as well. But once you find something that you want to kind of start with, which maybe you don't, there we go, then what you can do is after you buy it, he'll offer to do various crafts. Okay, so this is an interesting one, Steve, before you click anything. So what this is going to do is remove all prefix modifiers from the item. If we like...
So this is what's referred to, and you hear this a lot, as deterministic crafting. Rog crafting has always been one of the best ways to craft in Path of Exile in recent years, and you can make some absolutely mirror tier stuff in Path of Exile 1 with this
prefixes. We probably want to skip this one and not do it, so let's skip this one. We got the same one again, which is very annoying. So I guess we just have to do it then. Then re-roll suffix modifiers. Now there's quite a lot of different modes here, but effectively you get various ability to modify the item before you go. I think this one is going to turn out to be completely crap. Remove a single modifier with the lowest modifier level. Sure, I guess you can just take it. Anyway, that was a pretty crap example, but effectively this is a crafting system that allows you to make some pretty interesting items. Now, the other thing you're going to get from expeditions, other than
Don't
the
worry,
tablets
I got ideas.
is, what else do we have here?
We're going to make some crazy shit.
Right, we'll just do the logbooks next. Okay, right, so we've got logbooks.
We'll be on Mobalytics as
if
well.
you can get a logbook, it effectively allows you to do
a
like super expedition, which is like an area that has only expedition. These logbooks have various mods and things as well, and then once you go there, then you can do an expedition that has a lot more. You get a lot more dynamite to make it a much larger string. So there's a lot more strategy in picking what type of things you want to find.
You only need the Rog currency to be able to do it.
There's also things like bosses and uniques and like special underground areas and things like that to find. So there's just quite a lot of stuff hidden under the ground that you want to do. So at least find an underground area maybe. Yeah, is that one there? Okay, right.
Yep. Yeah, so to answer that one, Blazin, I'm going to do Ray Class 101. So I'm going to be doing like a new player series for all new players and beginners and stuff like that for when the game comes out. So yes, we're going to be doing beginner guides, which is going to be awesome. It's going to be very edited, very to the point, and yeah.
And then when you
Exactly,
detonate it, you're going to
that's
get the
it,
string of
Black Mage.
monsters, which you can try and keep up with. Although I hear the balance of this league is a bit wrong at the moment, so he might get one shot. So we'll see.
So these
As the remnants trigger, all
spawn
the
runic
monsters are gonna get
monsters,
harder,
and
so
they
might
hit
get pretty
friggin'
hard by
hard.
the end, even if they're easy at the start.
No, I can't give up. What is that skill? Yeah, I wish he was playing Warrior too. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Alright, so rather than keeping on killing those guys, we'll just quickly show you one of the things
cheers,
that
man.
we found. So there was a sub area down here where called Hidden Aquifer. There's quite a lot of variety of different things like this. I'm not sure what's in this one. But yeah, as I said, some of them contain bosses. They all contain interesting
Yeah, man.
rewards.
Book that
can
league.
be,
Get that league, dude.
So yeah, there's quite a lot of things you're going to want.
Thanks for follow, Arius. Oh no, man! I am sold on the warrior. The warrior is just going to be the best.
So like all of the end games, completing the most difficult content in this end game is going to allow you to get points to put in the Ascendancy tree.
Yeah,
make it
Titan.
more difficult, add
Titan
more
is
of them,
going to
that
be
kind of thing.
cracked, but I reckon
yeah,
I'm going to have a crack at
let's go on to the
making
next one.
Singer warrior as well with the Warbringer.
Oh, you might as well show the Atlas tree as well. So there's an example here which makes the number of explosives to 1, so that you only get one really large explosive rather than having to do a whole string of them in your maps. Maybe just a randomly interesting one.
Yeah, that's a PoE 1 item.
All right, let's have.
I
a look at the
did
next
take
one,
a
which is
week
Ritual.
off peanut butter. I am not working that week.
So Ritual
I'm
is
not
one of the other
answering
in-game
calls.
grinds.
I am making builds,
The,
content, and streaming for
When
20
you enter a
hours
map
a
with
day.
this mechanic, you're going to
gonna
find
be
these
legendary.
ritualistic circles through the area. Oh, there's one right there. Great. So when you kill monsters inside
be a
them,
crazy
it
week.
effectively grants the
I'm
monsters
excited.
as tribute. And so when you summon the ritual, all the monsters that you killed within that ritual circle will spawn again. Why does that root spider have no eyes? Oh, it's breach as well. Okay, let's not worry about that. Now, of course,
Thanks
because
for
the
the
league
sub, Dan.
mechanics overlap, you would be able to kill breach monsters inside the circle and summon them again by the with the ritual, I believe.
It really is a new
All right,
game.
so if
That's
when
the
you
best
use
part
the
of it.
ritual, it effectively closes you off into a small area.
That's it, dude.
And you have to
I
fight
got
all
you
the monsters
covered.
that you killed in that circle again. But the key thing is that there's it empowers them. There are multiple rituals through the area. So after each
I'll
time
be
you do
going
this, you get
softcore
a
first
ton
run.
of points called tribute that you can then spend on items. But if you're willing to risk it and make the rituals even more powerful, you can go to another ritual circle, kill more monsters inside of it, and then you'll be able to make the it'll summon both the ones from this circle and from the subsequent circle as well, making the rituals very, very tough by the time you get to the end. Oh, there's one last monster over there.
There was a video that was posted up on this channel here, and that's how we're watching it.
All right. So then when you click on the ritual, it'll open the screen here, which allows you to spend tribute. Now, I don't think we want to spend too long on this, but effectively, this is the reward
Yeah, I'll be
mechanic for
starting
ritual,
warrior.
and the more tribute you get, the more things you get.
You're going to be going shield warrior.
Oh, the map is beyond. Wait, is that because it was a corrupted map? Okay,
Yeah,
right.
man. I'll
So
be
because
doing.
this is a
Be
corrupted
streaming
map, by
like
the way,
probably 14
every
hours a
time you
day,
kill
and
monsters,
then I'll do
it's,
like 2 to 3
it's got
hours
this
of
mechanic called
videos
Beyond, where it
afterwards.
leaves these little orbs behind.
It's going to be an
and then
onslaught of
demons can
shorts
get
and
summoned from
videos,
them,
but I got a
when
plan.
you, when you kill
But I'll be doing
That's just one of the random corruption outcomes you can
a
get.
quick
due to beast
workflow for
corruption in the
beginner
map.
guides as well for new players.
Anyway, right. So this is tribute. You can buy items. None of these look particularly amazing, but do you have an omen in there? No. Okay. So in that way, we've got the end of the inventory. Right. So one of the things you're going to be looking for this are omens. So omens are a high-level crafting item that you can use to make more targeted changes to your items. So let's have a look at what they do. So here's an item here where we might like the prefixes but thinks the suffixes are crap. Normally what you might want to do is either re-roll them with a Chaos Orb or maybe remove them with an Orb of Annulment.
I thought that was a mouse for a second.
You can't normally choose which mod to remove. This is an Omen of
Invoker is the one that
of
stands
Dextral
out to me. I
Annulment.
think
What it does is while this
Chaos
item is
Monk's
active in your
gonna be a bit
inventory, your
tedious
next Orb of
initially.
Annulment will remove only suffix modifiers. So if you use that, and then use an Orb of Annulment, it'll only remove suffixes, not prefixes. And if you want to remove another suffix, he's got another one there. So this is a way of kind of doing meta crafting on items that allow you to make targeted changes. And with this, you can make some pretty broken stuff. There's another one here that says, while this item is active in your inventory, your next Exalted Orb will add 2 modifiers. That just effectively is a double Exalt. This kind of thing is like a pretty simple one, but there are a lot of these, and they do very interesting things. So that's just a sort of interesting way of crafting. It's one of the types of player power you can get only from this league. Of course, like other in-game mechanics, there's an Uber boss for this as well, and killing that boss is going to get you points.
They say there's a freaking Uber boss. So we got Uber bosses coming back. That means that's what I just heard. 125.
In the we don't actually have to go there, but we'll get you points for the Atlas tree for that league. So that's one of the other grinds as well. Right. Next up, we'll talk about Delirium. So in Delirium maps, your mind is going to be infected by a mysterious entity known as Tangmazu. You see these mirrors, and when you go through them, it kind of affects your mind and starts creating all these nightmare.
Well, when I think of like Uber bosses, right? Uber bosses aren't like pinnacle bosses are pinnacle bosses, right? But Uber bosses are above pinnacle bosses. So like they'd be like your T5 bosses or something like that based on what this game's articulating. So like if they're saying Uber boss, that's going to be a lot harder than the standard pinnacle.
Creatures, as well as affecting, kind of giving these strange things for other monsters as well.
Maybe meant pinnacle boss? Possibly. Okay.
So there's the Delirium right there.
Your life will end, and you.
So as you can see, it infects your mind, and you get this like mist, mysterious mist that goes to the area. It both spawns new monsters as well as affecting the existing monsters in interesting ways.
Pretty crazy.
Now the main thing you're going to be looking for in this league are called distilled emotions. Hopefully one drops, and we can have we can show you what they do. But if not, we've got one in the inventory.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking, yeah, that there are like that would mean tier 5 would be Uber bosses.
Now, if you're able to keep up with this mechanic, then you might be able to cover the entire map in it. In which case, you can get some bonuses on map bosses as well.
Possibly. Or maybe it's just like I reckon they'll still have item level, but I think it will just be like easier to identify on the ground. Yeah, exactly. It's like a flex, the ultimate flex. Thanks for following, Moxie.
Alright, so there's some distilled emotions. We have distilled ire and distilled paranoia. Now what this allows you to do is craft mods onto your amulet that grant you passives from your passive tree. So if you open up the crafting window for that, so effectively, if you put your amulet in there, then if you do a combination of 3 different distilled emotions, then it will allow you to get a bonus passive, what's it called? A notable from the passage tree. Sorry, I'm getting a little, it's coming through a lot here.
So anointing is now referred to as instilling. Anointing is now instilling. So it's just a change in terminology.
A bonus notable on the passage tree. So that one's quick recovery. 40% increased stun and block recovery, regenerate 10% of life over 1 second when stunned. Now, once again, this is a type of player power you only get from here, but you can also use them on maps as well.
I like that.
So
David
if you put
Bowie
them on
balls.
maps, then it allows you to add bonus mods to the map in addition to the rev mods that you can normally get. So it's another form of juicing that you can do for endgame as well. Right, so that is Delirium. Now, all of these different mechanics from the different in-game grinds kind of can be added with each other. If you open up the map, you can kind of start to add multiple mechanics overlapping with those towers. You can juice maps with, you know, the thing like mechanic we just said. You're allocating points in the Atlas tree. Effectively, altogether, it allows you to really boost from the bottom of the Atlas to the top of the Atlas to really improve the content that you're doing to the point that it can get pretty crazy. But there is one more.
Yeah, so see how they put the tablet in there? The tablets are consumable. So they don't stay, they only stay for a period of time.
In-game grind, which I'm not going to really talk too much about, but it relates to that that little object there. So effectively, this is where the Uber Pinnacle boss is.
Yeah,
and,
Uber
we can travel
Pinnacle
to the
boss.
entrance, but we won't be able to actually get in because we don't have meet the requirements yet. But effectively, there are around the map various ways to get keys to be able to enter this area. It's kind of mysterious, and this is the hardest content in the game. So when you play the game, you'll have to try it out. But effectively, inside this area, you'll don't actually go in there. Inside there,
like, don't give away the Uber Pinnacle boss in the announcement.
You'll be able to fight the Uber Pinnacle boss as well. And for the sort of hardest challenge in the game, that is something that I think players really enjoy.
Hell yeah, we do.
So this
I reckon I keep coming back to it. I think it's something to do with Zana. I think it's got to be something to do with Zana.
Is a
Or
sort of basic
Doriani.
overview of how the endgame works. There was quite a lot of information there, quite a lot of sequels to leaks from PoE1 as well. But you can
that's
sort of
it's
see,
not
I
a
guess,
bad
the
idea.
beginnings of a system that we're going to be
So
expanding a lot of the
Gigi
time.
did a
As we
presentation.
add
It was
more of
posted
these
up on this
PoE1
channel.
league sequels, and as we add more content that leagues to PoE2, we've effectively got a lot of space here to be able to add as
Final
much
boss
to the game as possible.
That'd actually be awesome if the final boss was Diablo and they put Diablo in a Path of Exile game, because Diablo is probably never going to be in a Diablo game, right?
The Atlas tree with all its different little
Valdo could be interesting.
What you might call, you know, the Ascendancy kind of cluster type things for all the different content. All of these things, you know, adding all of these things.
Well, what if that last... So usually the last boss in the supporter pack is the last thing in the supporter pack is the final pinnacle boss, like the big bad. So maybe the supporter pack gives away the final pinnacle. Like, you know, whatever that stained glass stuff
we're
is,
going to add one
that could
every time
actually
we add a
be
league,
what
to effectively allow you to
the
scale
last
this
boss
stuff.
is.
And so that means that there is a large capability to have a lot of content here. So that sort of shows you, I guess, as a quick rundown of the content in early access.
You never know.
Even though it is early access, there's a lot of content here. There's a lot to do in endgame. There's the campaign.
I don't think there's any spoilers in here. I'm going to do like a quick summary of this video, like a 15-minute summary
all
of
of
this
that is, I
video.
guess, going to be coming out on December 6th.
Uber Chris Wilson.
How do you get access? Well, the answer is to that is that we're going to be releasing a bunch of supporter packs in the relatively near future when we announce all this content. And the lowest supporter pack, the $30 one, contains a key to get access to the early access for Path of Exile 2. So if you buy one of those, you'll both get points, which you can use to spend to buy, you know, whatever it is in the cosmetic store that you want to buy, as well as get access to PoE2. And any of our existing supporters who have spent more than, I think it's around $500, you know, basically the highest tier supporter pack in the past, will also get access for free as well.
I bought the like $700 or $500 pack.
You know, like it is a game
12
the
more
size
days, man.
of most retail games that come out. We would expect like a pretty significant number of players to be able to play, but there's still a lot of work for us to do. Obviously, we've got a lot more content to add.
Is there a comment he just made there was like a total slap at everyone? It is a game the size of most retail games that come out, which is not true. It's bigger than most retail games that come out.
Add a lot more things to do, and
I did,
you know,
man. I bought it.
By the time we're finished, I'm hoping that PoE2 will be, you know, as we get to release, will feel like it's as large as PoE1 is easily. But yeah, that's all we have for you today, and hopefully you enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
There's a lot to unpack about that video. So I just had a look on the PoE Reddit. So they've got 4 new Ascendancies for the Titan. If you hadn't seen it, these were leaked in I think the video that was just sort of shown. This here, equip a chest which has 20 inventory slots. So additional. This is the bag that that was out of, what was it? Oh, the Wildwood League, whatever that was called, a few leagues ago. So this was the bag that was in there. So that's pretty cool. And then basically armor from equipped body armor is doubled. This is the old Ascendancy off of the Juggernaut. So basically, you know, I don't know how this is going to work or whatever, but basically the Jug is going to be, or like the Marauder is going to be totally different. And yeah, but this is the Titan, by the way. So Titan just does like insane stats. And by the way, like you're going to have to stack, so for shield builds, you're going to have to stack armor on your shield. And then basically, like, you know, you're looking at doubling that. I don't know if it's based on the shield armor. I think it's based on the shield armor, but yeah. And the other question would be, do we have like Dream Feather or something like that in the build? Otherwise, you know, there might be something else that pushes this up. Yeah, this is the Affliction Rucksack. So, I don't know. They were using Affliction to test a lot of stuff in Path of Exile 1. And then we've got Ancestral Empowerment. Every second slam you use yourself is Ancestral boosted. There was a thing called Tarwal's something, I remember, in the original Chieftain Ascendancy. And this is basically an old Chieftain Ascendancy point that was in the game. Yeah, Blazin, you can link that. And then we've got Mysterious Lineage, which is probably the best thing, which is 20% more flat HP. Warrior is just going to be... Titan is just going to be exactly what it is. I changed my mind and gone on two-handed mace. Yeah, man. The Titan is just going to be totally ridiculous. Like, it's just going to be a tank powerhouse and perfect for everything. Mercenary classes look absolutely sick. Yeah, I'll have to see what else is in there. Anyway, I just want to do like a short stream today. I'll probably be on tonight, or may not be on tonight. I think I'll be on probably tomorrow night now. I'm going to go off and edit a bunch of videos because there's a lot of stuff to unpack from that to go through and like compress so everyone can sort of get a bit of a taste of it. If you haven't subbed to the YouTube channel, definitely sub to the YouTube channel. If you haven't followed the Twitch, make sure you give me a follow. I'm going to be doing like build guides #1, league start guides, or not league start guides, but we're also going to be focusing on like new player guides called Raid Class 101. And yeah, anyway, I will see you all later on. I think for the Twitch guys, let's raid somebody. Let's just have a look and see what is going on Twitch today, and see if we can go to like a smaller creator maybe. But yeah, no, I've got a ton of stuff planned for this game. Like I think it's hard to not want to like play the shit out of this game, to be honest with you. To go there. Yeah, Titan is just like the first one off the rank that just like looks the best to me, to be honest with you. Who we got in here? All right, who we raiding today? So, let's go to Lacati Gaming. He's just like farming whatever. Oh, Frosty, there we go. Give him a big ass raid. Yeah, the Atlas is pretty much delved, to be honest with you. It's gonna be dope. But yeah, I'm super excited. I don't think I've been this excited for a game release in a very, very long time. But yeah. Alright guys, I'll see you later. Have a good